Hello, folks. This is Red Labor. Hope this day finds you well. I want to talk about obstruction and selective outrage. I've touched on subjects like this before, and I sound like a broken record, but I feel like it needs to somewhat be reiterated, and therefore that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it maybe from my ideological perspective. In 2006 and 2007, actually, 2006, when the Democrats defeated Republicans and they came back to the U.S. House and came back into the U.S. Senate as a functioning majority. They were relatively good fighters, fighting the good fight against George W. Bush. I approve of what Democrats were doing against Bush, even when they were a minority after the crushing 2004 defeat. They did everything they could to undermine and obstruct George W. Bush. Guess what, folks? I was glad they did. My only problem with them was they weren't obstructive enough. And you just saw these Republicans having a fit and a tantrum, urging the Democrats to sit down and shut up. How dare Democrats defy George W. Bush and the Republican Party? And the Democrats were as pretty much close to having a backbone in those days than they ever had. And they looked at Bush and the Republicans and Rush Limbaugh, and it was as close to saying, fuck you, as it could be. I was glad they were doing that. I was like, maybe I could be a Democrat again. And then I saw the Democrats go back to being the pussies that they are, being too afraid to govern effectively, promising the world, and when they actually had the power to govern, run away from those key issues. So that's where I'm standing and seeing the Democratic Party these days. Well, when I hear Republicans standing up against Obama and the Democrats, and when Democrats are complaining and the Republicans are acting like, there it is, Democrats trying to tell us not to stand up against them, but we're going to stand up against them because that is our right to do so. Well, that's exactly what the Democrats did when the Republicans are fought. This shit goes back and forth. Both sides obstruct. Stop engaging in the selective outrage. I'm sure that this will be a repeated pattern over and over again. Now, for me, I belong to a third party, and I just think it's just funny as hell watching this. And while I do think that the two-party system is, for the most part, a dog and pony show, right at the same time, when people talk about the red-blue state divide, real or imagined, there is a red-blue divide. It really exists. And with regard to this red-blue divide, it's a little bit dangerous because people's tempers are flaring around. In 2007, a crazy man walked into a Unitarian church in Tennessee, a right-wing nut job, shot several people during a Sunday service at this Unitarian church. And and I hate to say this, but had that man not come in there shooting at those people, and he'd been just a pissed off right winger, I bet you money he'd be at a Tea Party rally at this point. He'd be at Tea Party rallies, probably coming up with a conspiracy theory on how Barack Obama was secretly born in Kenya. Mr. Obama, show us that birth certificate, kind of claptrap. The irrational hatred that's not just based on political party the political party divide or ideology, but into the nether worlds of racism, and that's really what it comes down to. You hear the term birth certificate, you hear the term Muslim, you hear these terms, um, racism, pure and simple. Now, I'm not one of those people on the left that screams racism every time somebody disagrees with me. I mean, I don't. But when there is real racism, there is real racism, and the Tea Party comprised of the birth certificate crowd, the crowd that thinks that the president is an actual Muslim. Somebody who thinks that the president has third world revolutionary, violent tendencies, trying to bring down Western civilization, that sort of thing. The irrational, the foolish, the conspiracy theory minded, that sort of thing. And it existed on the left a little bit. When people said Bush was Hitler, Bush wasn't Hitler. He was a prick, but he wasn't Hitler. And I called bullshit on it back then. I mean, when conservatives accuse liberals and lefties of saying y'all hate George W. Bush, count me among them. I couldn't stand George W. Bush. I still can't stand George W. Bush. I don't wish him harm. I don't. I'm not. I don't even think he's I don't even think he's the most evil man that's ever existed. But when I look at the Bush presidential years, I'm thinking, United States, how in the world can you fuck up like that? But this red-blue divide is really it's fascinating and dangerous because people are scared and you got people who you got this culture war. Pat Buchanan, I didn't agree. I'm not on Pat Buchanan's side of the culture war, but Pat Buchanan was right that there is a culture war, and it's a culture war between those that wants to repress freedom and those who are for it. And I am not talking about those who are. I'm not trying to finger point and do a blanket indictment, but I'm just saying that there are some obnoxious voices out there. For the Republicans, they tend to be the loudest, stereotypical redneck rebel rousers in the Tea Party, the kind that belongs to militias, the kinds that fly Confederate flags, the kind that goes around with signs and posters asking for birth certificates, having grotesque pictures of Barack Obama as with a Hitler mustache or as some kind of African tribal witch doctor with a bone across his nose, that sort of thing. These people are fucking nutty. The Glenn Beck, Michelle Bachmann crowd, as I like to refer to them, and there are, and on the liberal side, it exists to an extent too. It exists in two areas. There are people who are actually on the freaking radical hard left with banners from the Party for Liberation and Socialism and the various communist organizations and movements that exist out there, Workers' World, what have you. The only thing is those groups don't support the Democratic Party. They're independent political parties, and they're very critical of the president. For which they are right, although some of their politics is too far to the left for me. But and then you got partisan Democrats who are just they don't really stand for anything other than they're Democrats, and anything that's in the way of the Democratic Party, they cry and whimper, and they act like a sob sister or weeping Nelly, and they don't really stand for anything other than just to throw progressives under the bus and to they're basically what I call what a modern liberal is. Someone who's afraid to stand up for their own, stand up and on their own side of an argument crowd, but still at the same time severely combative against the Republicans. Anyway, this red-blue divide is really is really toxic because everybody's screaming at each other, but nobody's really standing for anything. I'll let you discuss this if you want. Comment away.